everywhere I go is AI, AI,
Yeah.
AI. Every conference, every company is now an AI company. What was it, the company that went was like a shoe company and then they became an AI company? I forget the name, but now it's slipped my mind. But anyway, like everybody becomes an AI company. Everybody's trying to implement all these things. But the question is, when do you do it?
Yeah.
Right? How do you do it? Is there a better way to do it? I mean, neither one of us, I think, are experts, but I think just being in operator seats in different kind of locations, it's always interesting to just observe how businesses are adapting or failing to adapt. So anyway, I have so much to say about this topic,
No, I'm with you. I'm
but
with you.
what are you seeing in AI
Yeah,
world?
I feel like in the mad dash for companies to adopt AI, they haven't taken the time to for me, when I think of AI, I think of productivity and efficiency enhancements. So where are the bottlenecks in your operations? Where are the things that you want to address that you want to perhaps put some automation in to cover? Right. That's where companies should be implementing AI, not looking across the street to see what the other company's doing and just grabbing their module and putting it into their operations, right? So, where do you need to gain some efficiencies? Where do you need to fill some holes? And then figure out an AI tool or agent that can help you address those issues.
Yeah.
And I think people in the rush to implement, in the rush to tell the markets and tell everyone that they have their AI enabled, they're not really thinking about the best way to implement it within their own company.
Yeah. You know what it sounds like? I always go back to our questions. Okay, so why we're implementing AI, right? What are we gonna do with it? Like in terms of like what are we actually optimizing? And then maybe the how and the who.
Yeah,
Because I think that's you're right. Like we're looking at like what the next guy's doing. It's like, okay, everybody's doing AI, so we need to be doing AI.
right.
And it's like really reckless and really unprepared. And then it's just like, I mean, a lot of like with Shift 12, for example, a lot of the products that we were, when we were talking to companies, then a lot of products they're bringing in because it's an AI product, but they don't really care what the AI product does as long as they AI. As long like, no, we're using
Right.
AI. This is
Yeah.
what we're doing. But it's like if you dig deeper, you're like, so how is this gonna help you increase, productivity or optimize your processes? And then
Right.
they're like, well, and then it's like, how do we get here? And
Yeah.
they're spending millions of dollars bringing in products and they don't know why they're even doing it. I think that's what like mind boggling to me.
Yeah, I see. To me, I see a lot of companies struggle with strategy, right? Like, you should have a strategy on your product development, a strategy on how you're going to go to market, a strategy on how you're going to reduce and eliminate risk, and a strategy on how you're going to automate the business, right?
Mm,
It doesn't matter what you call it, AI, or it doesn't matter what the term people use. You should always be looking for automated automation and tools to enhance your productivity, right? So
yeah.
that's the first thing I would say. And then the second thing is like, it's great to go and run and tell the market that you're AI enabled, but at the end of the day, no one cares, right? Like I would have these discussions with folks and, I'd get a lot of pushback because I would say for Fortune 500 companies, those companies are not run by the CEO, right? All of the publicly traded companies are run by the CFO. And if you don't understand that, like you got homework to do, right?
Mm,
All of these decisions and how companies run and grow are all a function of how the market, if you're a publicly traded company, how the market perceives you. And
mm,
the only person that speaks to that at a company is the CFO,
yeah.
right? And so, I say all that to say that you have to start with a strategy for it, for AI. Like I have a small business right now, and I had a really cool company contact me, and they're like, "Hey, we will scrape Google Business, come up with a list of prospects for you, and then we will use our AI agent to reach out and move those cold prospects into warm prospects, and then move those warm prospects into clients." And I'm
Mm,
like, you got to be kidding me, right? Like the last thing I want to do is have an AI agent touching any of my warm prospects.
right.
Because from the customer's perspective, that can be a frustrating experience.
Super. I get
Right,
those all the
like,
time.
right. I remember a few months ago, I had an issue with a product with a company that I really like a lot, right? And I knew they could easily handle the issue, like a quick phone call. But I was super frustrated because it took me 23 minutes to move through the AI tool that they forced all of their customers to go through from the onset.
Right.
So I literally had to hang in there for the 23 minutes, move through the process. And then once I got a live person on the phone, they took care of it in 2 minutes. Right.
Mm,
So when people say they're rushing to implement AI, let's be thoughtful about the customer's experience,
Yeah.
because I know as a small business owner, it is so incredibly expensive to close that customer. And then to take a cold, like insensitive tool like AI and hand that relationship over is just absolutely crazy to me.
It it
I
it's
don't
crazy to me too.
understand, right? Like,
I would never do it. Like, I don't understand. It never worked. Even just I think and again, going back to like why you actually doing it and do you actually need AI to do it?
yeah,
Because even when the whole LinkedIn automation, like the CRM automation came in and you can connect LinkedIn and it will send hundreds, I mean, guilty. I've tried it. It doesn't work.
yeah,
It doesn't work because once you start reaching out and automating this process, automatically you cannot personalize every outreach, no matter how smart your AI agent is, it's not a
absolutely.
person
Right,
behind it.
right.
There's going to be, etc. I think now we're also getting to a point where personally, I have a pet peeve for customer service, and I actually
Yeah,
want to feel, especially when I'm spending money, like as a consumer, right? If I'm spending money, I'm investing money in something. I don't want you to just give me an AI tool. I'll
right.
give you an example. A friend of mine actually hired somebody to do some of those, it was a marketing agency, right? It was lead generation marketing. And
Mhm.
all they did, she spent like thousands of dollars a month for a period of time. And all they did was they would actually put in whatever stuff, whether it's a campaign into AI, and they will be like, this is your strategy. And she's like, wait a minute. I can have Claude for $20 a month or whatever it is
Right.
and have that. That's not what I'm looking for. And that's
Yeah,
the same thing, I think, like, again, even for companies that might make sense to use AI, why are you using it and when do you use it? And
yeah,
it's not that outsourcing your work because that's your value as a company, right?
yeah,
Is that your knowledge, your expertise, right? Like to be able to actually, have that conversation with your client. But if you can't even, like, they couldn't even answer a lot of her questions about like why they're doing certain things. They're like, oh yeah, well, we can come back to you with that. It's like, no, no, I'm
yeah,
paying basically for like your knowledge. And if I can ask, if you don't know the answer and I just need to ask AI because that's what you're gonna do, what is the purpose of all
yeah,
this?
yeah,
So and I like it that you were talking about like the 500 Fortune companies. This is where, I mean, I cannot speak on it. I have very little experience with large organizations, and I think that's like important to distinguish. I think there's different things that large organizations need to be mindful of,
yeah.
and also small businesses, right, and like startups. I think the bottom line, what I'm hearing you saying is that like understand why you're doing it,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
And then actually, does it make sense? Because I think that's what's missing is the strategy. And that goes back to like what I always say, we are a reactive society.
yeah.
We are reacting, we're not proactive. I really, really love this point from somebody I heard many, many years ago, John Sene. And it wasn't his idea, but it's something he brought forth in a conversation. And it was about future teams, where companies, especially large companies, have teams that are only focused on predicting what's going to disrupt their business a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
Absolutely love that.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Absolutely
like a
love that.
team that's just totally dedicated.
Yeah,
They're not talking about what's happening today. They're
yeah,
thinking about how we're going to be disrupted. So that way they're actually creating a strategy that makes sense versus just reacting and then being in a situation where we are now, where we don't know what's going on in companies anymore.
yeah. No, that I love that, and that point resonates with me. I recall in one of my roles at a tech company, right? Like decent sized company, right? And we were a market leader. And I remember talking to the CEO and the COO about the need for a corporate development function. And so one, I was shocked because they didn't know what I was talking about. But two, as I explained to them, we're well funded, but for every competitor that we know of, there are hundreds of companies that are VC backed sitting in basements coding against your product. And if you don't know who they are or what they're doing, then shame on you, right? And so
Yeah.
that was my pitch to the company. We should have a corporate development function that's doing all the work around who's the next entrant into our market. How are we going to defend against them, right? How are we going to know the impact of their product? And to your point, really what I'm saying in that function, in that case, a corporate development function is a future-proof team, right? Like we got to know who's going to be in our space tomorrow. And so play that out. That whole conversation didn't move very far. Play that out 6 months later. And literally in an all hands call, we had a conversation around our customers holding off on making buying decisions on our product
Mm.
that we had just released because they had heard about other products that had more features, and they would rather hold their money and wait than to adopt our product on day one. And again, I'm like, future proofing, the thing you just mentioned, corporate development, those things go hand in hand. But Elena, it all ties back to strategy. Nobody wants to do any of the hard work because it's hard to put that on your performance appraisal, right? It's hard to check that off within a 90-day period. So what does everyone do? They gravitate towards tactical work. Hey, you know what? You gave me 12 tactical things to do. I did all 12 of them. Yeah, but from a strategic standpoint and a growth perspective, they added up to zero, right? And
Mm.
so I think it's the strategy and the strategic things that companies fall short on. One, because they're hard to measure. Two, people struggle with accountability. And three, sometimes some of these strategic initiatives take 1, 2, 3 years to see the value, and nobody's patient enough to grow or build a company that's built for the long haul. And so I think those couple of points are not only good for general strategy, but also how these companies are implementing their AI. I would venture to guess there are some companies that don't need it at all, right? People probably think that's crazy. But again, there's no way to know until you've done top to bottom strategic analysis on your company to determine where it best fits in or if you actually need it.
I like what you're saying, and I think that's so important. And to your point, I wonder how do we break the cycle? Because again, speaking like you're speaking from more larger organization, as you're talking about this, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, in a startup environment, like what works first? And I think in a startup environment, I always say like, what can we bring from startup life into corporate life,
Right.
right? And I think in startup life, it really is about this longevity of something of whatever you're building, right?
Sure.
Like you have this vision, you want to build it, so it's almost like you're really open to ideas and you're really open to like if somebody comes in, I'm like, you know what, you're right, I need a strategy. I don't know how I'm gonna get it done, but that's a good point. And
Right.
I think the challenge with startups and like, small businesses is that you don't always have the resources to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I think at least I mean I'm speaking broadly, but I think in startups you mainly recognize that you need that strategy because you're so open and you're still in this very maybe space where you need to do what you need to do
Yeah.
versus I think once you are an executive, again, very personal assumptions, but I think like an executive in a company, and then you're like, wait a minute, like I just need to show that I'm doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Something we talked about before. Like I'm not even sure if I'm gonna be here 5 years from now to see the fruition of this strategy pan out. And because this is not my baby business, that's not my business, right?
Right.
Like it is a startup or small business owner.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's this disconnect, right, between that I want to see, and again, it's not everybody, but I think that's what I see in a lot of leadership is like there's this disconnect and almost like looking at, I'm just here and I'm just doing a job and I want to make money and that's it versus you actually growing something, right? And I wonder what you've seen in the more of like, larger organizations.
Yeah.
Like, does that ring truth or are there some great examples of people that are just like, no, I'm really devoted to this company and the growth and the products that we're building?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, when I think of it, I've spent most of my career in large corporate, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything in the world. Some of the things that I don't like about large corporate, right, is the silo effect, right? Like because most of these companies are so large, you develop a set of skills, and that's what you're asked to do. You're asked to do a certain job because someone believes that that skill set belongs in that role, right?
Mm-hmm.
One, I could talk all day about, the issues with making some of those assumptions, right? And so people get put into certain roles, and there's no one, including HR, that's looking at people's individual skill sets and matching it up with where the holes are in the company's skill set, right? And so I had challenges in some of my corporate roles because I sat in a role where I should have been in another area, but since they weren't hiring in that area because they didn't have a head count or whatever the case may be, it was easier for them just not to do the work because they didn't have head count than it was to take someone that had the skill set and lend half of their time into that area, right?
Yeah.
So it's the corporate is this whole I have blinders on. I'm only doing what I'm told, which I don't like. I love the entrepreneurial aspect because good or bad, like you're in charge of everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's pros and cons to that. But I feel like historically folks have gravitated towards large corporate and feel like they can dedicate time, energy, and resources to growing a career at a company, right? And even along the way, sometimes they even like the company or they love the company, right? In my opinion, those days are gone. right? Like you're responsible for your own career. You should always be skilling up and learning, and you should always be looking for the next role, either inside the company or outside. And that goes for mentors, mentors in the company, mentors outside the company, because you want broad perspective. So I feel like traditionally folks could rely on doing a good job, developing skill set, broadening that skill set, and then being upwardly mobile within a company. I
Mm.
think that's less likely the case now than it was, a few years back.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
actually I think that's a whole other topic that stay tuned.
Right.
Because I think it's so important, and I think as it relates to the discussion of I think that's another thing I'm seeing is that the whole reskilling. Like again,
Hmm.
we're just giving people like in some companies that I've seen, it's like okay, we're just all gonna implement AI.
Yeah.
One also there's a lot of limitation where I've seen is like for example, some companies are like, listen, we can only use what is it, Copilot. I'm personally not a fan of Copilot. No shame on Copilot. But if they're using a Microsoft product, they're tied to a Microsoft
Yeah.
product, right? So, and unless they develop their own, which is a whole other, like their own version of AI, whatever, using all the different LLMs, which is a whole other thing.
Right.
But I think also just, not really preparing the staff to be able to use AI. Because to me, I'm like, from an HR perspective, I'm like, oh my God, that is a legal nightmare,
Yeah.
right? Like that's like when we're talking about AI, like that's what I've seen is like people just like, okay, we're gonna use this AI. The companies are doing this.
Yeah.
There's no implementation. There's not a lot of adoption. There's not a lot of training, proper training designed, right? So now what's happening, okay, is that we have people using their personal computers
Yeah.
and they're using Claude and they're doing a bunch of stuff on company stuff on their personal computers
Right.
because Copilot sucks, right? And I mean, really, no shame, but I'm just saying personal opinion, right? Like, and so you can only do so much with Copilot, but then you're like, well, Claude, again, personal opinion, like, I really enjoy using it. So it's like, as an employee, you're then in this like, okay, you have a lot of information. So, but at what point do you slip up?
Yeah.
And you're using too much Claude on your personal computer with your company stuff,
Right.
and how are you as a company, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
I'm with you.
to me,
I'm
like
with you.
and that, to me, that's because the company is either not listening to the employees and saying, what are you actually like? Again, why are we doing it? How are we doing it? Who's doing what?
Right.
Like really going to that strategy. And to me, that's a large, and maybe that's a whole other thing as well. It's like, what's going to happen a year, 2 years from now when everybody's getting sued right and left because companies have not put guardrails
Right.
and employees also, ultimately it's the company responsible, right? Like the employee, worst case, what you're going to get fired maybe if we're not using it accurately.
Yeah.
Right. So like anyway, that's the thoughts that come to my mind when I'm thinking skills and AI at
Yeah.
least.
No, I'm with you. I mean, there's a ton to unpack there. Like the one thing that jumps out at me is I spent 10 years in tech, and that experience had its pros and cons, right? Like the pros, learned a lot, got involved in a lot, spent a lot of time traveling internationally, developing businesses internationally. Really cool. The shortcomings of tech, regardless of what they tell you, they want kind of similar think and similar talk, right? So when I joined tech about 10 years ago, they wanted everyone to be a data analyst, right? Big data was the thing. It
Mhm.
didn't matter what your role was. They wanted you to be able to analyze and assess data, which was cool because that's all I did my entire career, right? So I'm like, I got a leg up on everybody on this. What I realized is that there were people in the company that weren't analysts, but the company pushed them in that area. And so I'm like, okay, I raised my hand. Hey, quick question. If the lawyers are doing analytical work, who's protecting and reducing our legal risk? Not a good answer. Our marketing folks, right? Like, if you're focused on analyzing data, who's developing the marketing programs?
Mhm.
And so I'm like, that makes no sense.
Right.
So, and over that 10-year period, first everybody had to be like a big data person. And then as the data centers came online, everybody had to be like, up on how to move companies to the cloud, irrespective of your role, which I thought was strange. And now here we are again. Every person at the company needs to be an expert in AI. Forget if you're a lawyer. Don't worry about drafting documents. I don't know who's going to do it, but we want everyone to be an AI expert, right? And so the thing that's strange is like, play that forward. Like I'm reading that there are new functions within Teams and Copilot that assess, how much time like tracking how much time you're on your computer, how much time you're spending using AI tools. And that data is being used to assess performance. And I'm like, That's stupid, right?
Mhm.
Like if you're a financial analyst on the finance team, I couldn't care less how much time you use an AI tool. I've got goals and objectives for you to meet as an employee. You go and figure out your best way to get there.
Yep.
But I'm not going to make a 55% goal for you to use the AI tool on a given day to get your job done,
Yeah.
right? Like we've moved too far and we're less focused on individual performance and more focused on the group chat around what the next big thing is.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I was like, well,
It's crazy to
if they
me.
start doing
It's
that, they're
crazy.
gonna have to fire like 70% of their people.
Absolutely.
Because if you start tracking what people are actually doing,
I'm
you're
with
like,
you.
wait a minute.
Right. What do you do when 75% of
I
the
mean,
people don't meet the metrics,
exactly, because that's
right?
the reality.
Hey,
Like,
company, what do you
yeah,
do then, right? And so I'm with you on that. No, by the way, what happens when you meet that metric, but you're running a 3% gross profit margin on your business? Either way, you're screwed,
mhm,
right? Like, so I think they've just pivoted so far on the opposite end of the pendulum that at the end of the day, people don't understand. We're not here as companies, either big or small, to implement the next biggest thing. We're here to build goods and services that resonate with customers and implement and sell those things in a way that we can make a decent margin and we have some sort of social responsibility while we're doing it. This whole concept of measuring how much time I use an AI tool, foolishness to me, right? Like
foolishness.
they can go and do it. And I'm sure there are people that have done studies and will discuss how and when it makes sense, but it just has moved too far away from the basic analytics of why we're doing the things that we're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah, so I always think of it as like relationships, right? Like if you're never fighting with your partner and everything is just smooth, it's probably not a good sign. Like there needs to be some healthy amount of
Right.
fighting and bickering and
Right.
debating and disagreeing. And I think the same thing in startups and in companies as well. And that's what is missed in corporate world, in my opinion, is this healthy debate where nobody's ego is hurt, nobody feels like
Yeah.
their boss is watching, nobody feels like somebody's throwing them under the bus. That's another thing I've been in trouble with before. I'm like, it's not about you. Like, I'm nobody cares enough about anybody else. Like, I'm just thinking like, because maybe I come from very startup-y environment. So I always care, and I very much care about my career in general. So I care about my career, and I care about the product, and that's the angle I'm coming at. I'm
Yeah.
not coming because I don't want your title type of thing. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
what, like I think it's lost on a lot of people. Like that's not my
I'm with you.
aim to success. Like
This
that is not
is
what I'm trying to do here.
this is a
You know?
whole separate
Yeah.
episode as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
just the concept of not having open and honest dialogue. I struggle in corporate because, I just grew up in environments like think about I spent 10 years at GE Capital in the 90s. GE Capital was buying at all of the finance companies around the globe, right? They were hiring and utilizing the best of the best in the world, right? And when you work with people like that over a number of years, you have to figure out how to sink or swim, right? And so when you come out of those environments, very cutthroat, very competitive, and you go to less competitive environments, people don't want to deal with you. And I'm certainly not shifting, right? I am who I am. I'm supposed to be able to bring my authentic self to work. So I struggled because I couldn't shift,
Mm.
right? Like if I had to have a conversation, they literally, if there were tough conversations that had to be had, they'd have me do it because I seem to not have an issue with conflict. And I'm like,
Mhm.
the reason I don't have issue with conflict is because I have practice in dealing in, conflicting situations where most people shy away from it,
Yeah.
right? And so there shouldn't be anything wrong with that,
No.
right? And so that's a big piece of it. And so I think the other piece is just people feeling comfortable,
Mm.
right? We have whole teams at companies that are focused on helping employees feel comfortable. Like you name it, like HR has all these teams that do the employees feel like they can bring their authentic self to work? Do employees feel like they have an environment to thrive?
Yeah.
And they spend all this money doing all these things,
And it
but
doesn't
then,
work.
but then you can't have a conversation. I'm like, we're
Yeah.
wasting so much money. Why don't we just stop?
So much.
Well, why don't we
Millions.
just stop the facade of, hey, do you feel comfortable as an employee and what can I give you to make you feel comfortable? But at the end of the day, you can't go tell another employee that they have to leave because they're not getting their job done.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's a whole thing. It's
Right?
it's really, really wild. Yeah. It's I don't understand. I just don't understand. I don't even have anything to say. I don't understand. I can't even speak on it because I don't understand how this is norm. And then we wonder why, companies don't make it, or,
Yeah.
or careers don't make it, and so on. It's because, maybe that's a takeaway.
Yeah.
As a company, audit what you're spending your money on, right? And if you're an
Yeah.
individual, audit where your career is headed.
I'm with you.
Have an honest conversation about
No,
what's really happening.
no, I'm with you. I'm with you. And, at the end of the day, like, help root employees in the information that will help them assess the health and vitality of the business, right? Like, I had a conversation with the VP of marketing at a tech company who tried to convince me that as long as you're gaining market share, it's okay for the company to incur $1.30 in expenses to generate $1 in revenue. VP of a large tech company is trying to convince me, a financial analyst, that it's okay to spend $1.30 to generate $1 in revenue. I'm like, what planet are you from? Like, it may be a good, like, short-term goal, but if that's what you're planning on doing over a long period of time,
You're not
your
going to have a
your
company.
business is a failure.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you, like,
Yeah.
your role as VP of marketing is going away. Right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way to talk about
But that's
that.
another thing. Like, that's
I can't
also,
understand it.
it should be a whole episode on, like, finance 101, because marketing people.
Don't get me started.
Really, seriously, we're doing a finance 101 for everybody,
Right.
because I think, yeah, to your point, like, a VP, he's not thinking from that perspective. They
Yeah.
should be, though.
Yeah.
Right. Again, money in, money out. That's it.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
it. It's a math problem. I think if we just look at a math problem
Preach it.
without any emotions,
I love it.
that's it.
Yeah.
So
I can't wait to do the Finance 101.
awesome.